नमस्कार, स्वागत है आप सभी का eVidya चैनल नंबर 7 पर। मैं हूं देवेंद्र त्रिपाठी। DTH पर हमारा ये कार्यक्रम आप देख रहे हैं। साथ ही साथ ये कार्यक्रम आप देख सकते हैं YouTube पर, पता है ncertofficial, और इसके अलावा आप देख सकते हैं NCERT PMeVIDya क्लास 7 पर भी। तो इन जगहों पर आप हमें देख सकते हैं, हमारा ये कार्यक्रम देख सकते हैं और हमसे जुड़ सकते हैं, इस इंटरैक्टिव लाइव सेशन का हिस्सा बन सकते हैं। आज क्लास 7 के स्टूडेंट्स के लिए मैथ सब्जेक्ट के अंतर्गत एक इम्पॉर्टेंट चैप्टर है जिसका डिस्कशन होगा, जिसके बारे में हमारी आज की एक्सपर्ट आपसे बात करेंगी। फ्रैक्शंस एंड डेसिमल्स, और इसका दूसरा भाग आज पढ़ाएंगी। पहला पार्ट आप इससे पहले पढ़ चुके हैं। क्या है, क्या चीज़ें आपने पहले पार्ट में पढ़ी थी, उसका रिकैप भी शॉर्ट में करेंगे मैम, और उसके बाद हम आगे की बात करेंगे। और इसके लिए हम अपने एक्सपर्ट्स से आप सभी का परिचय करा दें। हमारे साथ हैं राधिका मैम, जो कि TGT हैं, नेशनल पब्लिक स्कूल वाइट फील्ड बेंगलुरु में। मैम, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आज की सेशन में।
नमस्कार
जी जी। और दर्शकों, जैसा कि आप जानते हैं, इंटरैक्टिव लाइव सेशन में आप भी पार्टिसिपेट कर सकते हैं। आप अपनी प्रतिक्रिया, अपने फीडबैक्स और अपने क्वेश्चंस हम तक पोस्ट कर सकते हैं। इसके लिए आप नोट कर सकते हैं हमारा फ़ोन नंबर 8800440559, और ईमेल एड्रेस के माध्यम से भी आप अपनी बातें हम तक पहुंचा सकते हैं, जो है dts.class7@ciet.nic.in। तो इन माध्यमों से आप हमारे इस सत्र का हिस्सा बनिए और लगातार जुड़े रहिए इस कार्यक्रम में, और जानिए कि फ्रैक्शंस और डेसिमल्स में आज आप क्या पढ़ेंगे, क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है आपके लिए। तो ज़्यादा देर न करते हुए पहला प्रश्न मैं आप सबकी तरफ से हमारी आज के एक्सपर्ट से पूछना चाहूँगा कि ये क्या होता है, वेयर डू यू यूज़ डेसिमल मल्टीप्लिकेशंस मैम?
Very good question, sir. Because as you see in my screen itself, there are decimals which you can see. This is what you generally see in shares and share markets, where the money is involved. So wherever the cash, when you go and buy some stuff from your supermarket or any nearby shop, you will see that 2.50, 10 rupees, 50 paise. So there you will have to apply the decimals. And with the decimal, we should also know how to multiply and divide decimals. So in a day-to-day life scenario, more we come across is about money. Also in statistics part, when you look about the temperature, there also we use decimals.
Right. Okay. So what are the errors that generally children make while multiplying and dividing decimals?
Sir, that question I think I will answer it towards the end, after we discuss about what are we going to discuss, right? Okay, so after discussing about multiplication and division, then I'll come to the point where we need to be careful.
Okay ma'am.
Shall I
Okay.
do that?
Okay, sure ma'am, sure.
So shall I start, sir?
Yes ma'am, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so children, so remember that last session what we have, that is this chapter is from your textbook is fraction and decimals. So I have discussed about fractions last class. If you remember, it's very good, thumbs up. But if you don't, we will just have a recap. Because to do a decimals, we definitely have to discuss about fractions. Because the fractions and decimals are connected. So let us recall about the multiplication of the fraction. To multiply a whole number with a proper or improper fraction, more than statement, you can focus on this multiplication part. When you multiply two fractions, if it is 3, this is 3 by 1. Remember, you multiply the numerator and then we multiply the denominator. So it is 3 into 2, which is 6 by 5, and we convert it into a mixed fraction. Also, we discussed about how to multiply two fractions. Okay, if there are numerator and denominator in the first fraction, as well as numerator and denominator in the second fraction, we multiply the numerator and we multiply the denominator. So we get our answer as 6 by 35. So we did multiplication, and what else we did? We did division also. So we will again recap what is division. Now division, when we discussed about similar way, division of a whole number by a fraction, fraction by a whole number, then fraction by fraction. But what we have to recall here is, when you're dividing a two fraction, we take the reciprocal of the second fraction and then multiply the numerator and denominator. So this multiplication and division is required when we discuss about the decimals. Now we will go for decimals. Okay, are you ready for it? For the decimals? Okay. Yes. So what are we going to discuss about decimals? We will discuss about multiplication of a decimal by a decimal. The interesting part of decimal is always multiplication by tens and hundreds and thousands. It's a very, very interesting and tricky. The third part is division of decimal by a decimal number and division of a decimal number by tens and hundreds. Again, this is interesting. And the division of a decimal number by a whole number. So let us go one by one. Okay, how to multiply two decimals. So first we are going to discuss about multiplication of decimal. So sir just asked initially, where do we use this decimals? So this is one scenario where we are going to use decimals. Reshma purchased 1.5 kg vegetable at a rate of rupees 8.5 per kg. It is 8 rupees 50 paisa. How much money should she pay? So you have to calculate, right? You cannot blindly believe the shopkeeper. So if you are good in math, you will calculate and say, okay, you are right, then I will give you the money accordingly. So we know that when you buy that 1.5 kg for rupees 8.50, we have to multiply the cost by the quantity. So 8.50 into 1.50. So do you know how to multiply this? So you better know that how to multiply so nobody can cheat us, right? So let us find out how to multiply this two decimals. So let us take a simple numbers first. Like as we know that when you say a decimal, it's basically 1 by 10 can be also converted into decimal as 0.1, which you have learned it in your previous classes. So I'm not going to discuss more about the conversion. We are focusing more about multiplication and division here. So 1 by 10 is 0.1 and multiplied by 1 by 10. How do we multiply two fractions? We multiply the numerator and we multiply the denominator. So we get here as 1 by 100. Compare it the same way. 0.1 into 0.1. 1 by 100 is 0.01. Similarly, 2 by 10 into 3 by 10 is 6 by 100. So 2 by 10 can be converted as 0.2. 3 by 10 is converted into 0.3. Therefore, the answer is 0.06. But how do we multiply without converting the fraction? Very, very simple concept is just take the two decimals 0.2 and 0.3. Then you just hide the decimal part and focus only the 0203, which we can take it as 2 into 3. What is the answer of 2 into 3? Yes, we already know it is 6. Now what we will do is, we will look at the number of decimal place. Here we have 1 and here we have 1. So what we will do here is, we will, before 6, 1 decimal and 1 more decimal point. So we will write here 0 because we would have a number here. So it is 0.06. To not to have problem by addition or any other operation, always before decimal, as we already aware of it, we will write a whole number part. So it is 0.06. So what do you think we can multiply this? 0.2, 0.3, 0. So just look at the values. 2, 3, 4. What is 2 into 3 into 4? Yes, it is 24. Now look at the number of decimal. 1, 2, 3. Right? So again here also 1, 2, 3. So the 3 decimal places should be there. Okay. Now let us understand what exactly the meaning of 0.2 multiplied by 0.3 through an activity. So observe this activity carefully. If you get a time, you try to do this activity on yourself. Okay. We are going to find the value of 0.2 multiplied by 0.3. So here you see that this is a 10 by 10 square sheet, which you will see 100 small squares are there. 1, 2, 3, like this 10 this side horizontally and 10 vertically. So 10 by 10, totally 100 squares are there. So here this horizontal line, we have 10 equal parts, and here also vertical also we have 10 equal parts. So if we divide this in along this each line, we will get 1/10 of it. So 1/10 means 1 by 10. So what we need initially is 0.3. So we will fold this into 3 equal parts. This is the first one, and then second one, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color this area 3 equal parts. Okay, so we need 0.1, this one is 0.1. So 3 parts we are taking, 3 strips. 3 strips will give us 0.3. So 0.1 is the first strip. Now what we need is 0.2, because 0.2 multiplied by 0.3. Now this is 0.3. Now if I fold this along this, we get 0.2. So again here I am going to shade it. So we need 2 strips. So we'll use a different color for it. So this is 0.1. Again 0.1. So totally we have 0.2 here. So this, if you look at this, you see here this is 0.3 and this is 0.2. So you will see this area 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts which is common to both. This is our answer, this area. So what is this value? Now remember, these are 100 squares. Each square will be 1/100 of it. That means each square is 0.01. How many 0.01 squares are? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 0.01 plus 0.01 plus 0.01, we have 6 times. So the answer is 0.06. So when you multiply 0.2 and 0.3, we are getting 0.06. So this is just to understand what is the 0.2 multiplied by 0.2. So but when we are doing it, we have to multiply the way we discussed in the previous slide. So let us come back to the scenario what we discussed. So Reshma purchased 1.5 kg for rupees 8.50 per kg. So as we already discussed, 8.50 should be multiplied by 1.50. Now remember, for an amount, this is something which we should always remember. We should not write 8.5 because we are discussing about 8 rupees 50 paise. So we should mention that it is a 50 paise. So it is 8.50 multiplied by 1.50. Just take it as 85 and 120, 150. Like 85 and 15, how do you multiply? We already know how to multiply, right? Just multiply this and we get it as 1275, 1275. Now look for the number of decimal places. Here we have 1 and here again 1. So there are 2 decimal places which we have to shift. So here 1 and this is 2. So it is 12.75. Okay. So what we should remember when you are multiplying a decimal is what is the decimal point. Now let us take very simple multiplication is how to multiply by tens, hundreds and thousands. Okay, this is basically shifting the decimal. First I'll discuss with respect to the fraction. 1.2 in multiplied by 10 means basically it is 12 by 10 multiplied by 10. So what do? We multiply by the numerator, multiplied by the denominator. We reduce it to the lowest form. We can divide this by 10 and we divide this by 10. So we get the answer as 12 by 20 by 10. We get answer as 2. So 1.2 into 10 is 12. 1.2 multiplied by 100. Similarly, we get what is the fraction. And then 120 becomes a. I am not audible. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So here, similarly, we will check 1.2 in multiplied by 100, which is 120. So what do you observe? As we look at this number of zeros increasing from 10, 100, 1000, 10,000, you see there is a shifting of decimal. Here we shifted to 1 place. Here we are shifting from 1.2 to 2 decimal place. Here we are shifting 1, 2, 3. Here 1, 2, 3, 4. So here according to the number of zeros here, we can shift the decimal. So if it is 2.5 and multiplied by 100. Okay. So what we should do? We should shift the decimal towards the right hand side. So we shift once, then we realize I shifted my decimal once, I don't have more digit, it basically is 2.50. So we can say the answer is 250. Okay. So multiplication by tens and hundreds is just shifting the decimals towards the right hand side depending upon the number of zeros. Just count the number of zeros. So here 3 zeros means 3 shifting place. Here 4 zeros means shift the decimal towards right hand side. That is what is important, because we are going to discuss about division also. So there is a comparison. Multiplication is increasing towards right side and division is decreasing towards the left side. So that is how we compare it. Okay. Okay. So we already discussed about the multiplication by decimal to decimal. We will also discuss about division of decimals, how to divide two decimals, and also the dividing the decimals by decimal. Okay. So the similar concept what we discussed just now, multiplication, division comparison with 10 is very simple. Okay. So 1.2 divided by 10 is 12 by 10 divided by 10, which is 12 by 10. We know the division means multiplication of the reciprocal, which is 1 by 10. What are we getting? 12 by 100. What is 12 by 100 in the decimal form? 0.12. Clear? So what I discussed here in the screen is all the conversion in fraction. But you don't have to convert a fraction when you are dividing by tens. So let us observe this answer carefully. 1.2 when I divide it by 10. What am I getting? 0.12. Are you getting an idea? Let's see. 1.2 divided by 100. Observe carefully. What are we getting the answer here? So here it is 0.012. Okay. The next one. 1.2 divided by 1000. Can you see the decimal values increasing towards the left? As we are increasing the number of zeros, we are again dividing by 10,000, more number of zeros. Our decimal place is also shifting towards the left hand side. So what can we conclude? We can conclude that when you are dividing by tens and hundreds and thousands, look at the number of zeros, accordingly shift towards our left hand side. So we have 3 zeros here. So we shifted from 1.2, 1, 2, 3. So what do I place here? This is 0 and this is 0. So 3 decimal places. Before decimal we should have 2 zeros here, right? So now we will discuss about division and division. Can you hear me? Children, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you can continue. Please.
So division of a decimal number by a whole number. How do we divide 2.4 divided by 3? So again we will compare it with fraction. That is 24 by 10 divided by 3, which is 24 by 10 into 1 by 3, which is 8 by 10, which is equal to 0.8. But how do we divide without doing this fraction? So 2.4 divided by 3. So look at, just forget the decimal first and look at the 24 divided by 3. How do I do 24 by 3? We know that the answer is 8. Now let us look at the decimal. How many values are there after decimal? We have 1. That means here this decimal, after the decimal we can have only 1 digit, isn't it? So that means the answer is 0.8, which we can say 0.8 there. Okay? So answer is 0.8. So once we know how to divide, we will like to know what exactly is this division of decimals. So let us observe one activity here for this also.
So here you see this is a 10 by 10 square. So you can see here there is a 10 squares and 10 square here. So totally there are 100 squares here. So what we will do here is this 100 squares, if you are cutting it, dividing it horizontally, so each horizontal line will be 1/10 of it, because we can divide this into 10 equal parts. So each horizontal part will be 1/10 of it. The entire sheet will give us whole. Okay. So here I have cut this 100 squares, that is horizontally I cut into 10 equal parts. You can see here, this is the one part. Like this I kept 10 strips, like this another 10 strips, and there is 4 more strips here. So here this will give us this one whole square, so this will be 1 and another 1, and each horizontal line, as we know, since it's 10 equal parts, this each horizontal part will be 1/10 of it. So each one will give us 0.1. So we have here 1, 1, and this will be 0.1 plus 0.1 plus 0.1 plus 0.1. So totally 1 plus 1 plus 0.4. So this is 2.4. Now what we are going to divide is, we are going to divide this 2.4 into 3 equal parts. So how do we divide this 2.4 into 3 equal parts? So we will divide it equally. We will take one strip and place it in the first rectangle sheet, another strip, and because we are dividing it equally, like this we'll start dividing it. Let's see how many strips we can place it. So here again 1, so we'll start dividing it. So you can see the third part. So it still keep on doing it. This is the fourth part. Fifth part we are going to keep it in all the rectangle part. Now we have still so many strips left. 6. This is sixth part. This is the sixth part. 7, 7, 7, and this is the last 3 strips. We are going to keep it 8, 8, and 8. So we can see that in each rectangular sheet we have 8 strips, and remember that each horizontal strip is 0.1 for us. So totally how many strips we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it is 0.8. So when 2.4 when divided by 3, we get 0.8.
We are clear with the division, what we have done with the decimal division. Okay. So similarly, if you are dividing a decimal by decimal number, we can either convert this into fraction and do it, which is again a lengthy part. Instead of that, what we can do is 22.5 divided by 2.5, remove the decimal numbers. So how do I remove the decimal? So for this, you should remember the multiplication of decimal by tens. When you are multiplying, so what we are looking is, we are making this denominator as a whole number. So 2.5, let us multiply by 10. So we are getting it as 25 in 2.5 to 10 is 25. Numerator becomes 225. So 225 by 25, which is 9. So always it is easy when change the decimals into a value which doesn't contain a decimal. Okay. So 3.96 divided by 0.4. So what are we observing here? Same thing. Look at the denominator 0.4. How do I convert this into an integer value? Just multiply this by 10. So when you do it for multiplying by 10 denominator, multiply it for the numerator also. So what is the shifting? Shifting will happen towards one place, right? So we get it as 39.6 divided by 4. Then you divide it normally. How do you do 396 by 4? Yes, it is 99, isn't it? And look at the numerator. What is the numerator? How many decimal places? 1, right? There is 1 digit after the decimal. That means shifting to 1 places, we get the answer as 9.9.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
if we have time,
Ma'am, we have not much time for this session. We will have to take going to wind up this session, and I hope you have covered all the things in fractions and decimals chapter in this chapter. I think major point you have covered.
okay.
I have. Okay.
Yeah. So, did you ask some question that
No,
what
no,
are the
no.
mistakes they make?
No. I do not have any question because समय अब हमारे पास समाप्त हो रहा है, सेशन को हमें समाप्त करना पड़ेगा. तो अगर कुछ चीज़ें रह गई हैं तो हम अगले सेशन में ज़रूर कवर करेंगे अपने स्टूडेंट्स के लिए. जी, थैंक यू सो मच मैम फॉर ज्वाइनिंग अस। आपने फ्रैक्शंस और डेसिमल्स के दूसरे पार्ट में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ें और बहुत सरलता से आपने एग्जांपल्स के ज़रिए समझाने का प्रयास किया। उम्मीद करता हूँ कि हमारे जो व्यूअर्स हैं, जो दर्शक हैं, उनको समझ में आई होंगी ये चीज़ें। आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मैम।
थैंक यू।
जी, हमारे साथ राधिका मैम थी, जो कि टीजीटी नेशनल पब्लिक स्कूल व्हाइटफील्ड बेंगलुरु से हमारे साथ जुड़ी और हमारे छात्रों को उन्होंने फ्रैक्शंस और डेसिमल्स के बारे में अच्छी जानकारियां दी। और उम्मीद करता हूं आपको ये सेशन पसंद आया होगा। आप बने रहिए हमारे साथ eVidya के साथ लगातार, क्योंकि शिक्षा और जागरूकता के कार्यक्रम आपके लिए हम लगातार लेकर आते रहते हैं। आप सभी का समय शुभ हो। दीजिए अनुमति। नमस्कार।